Historical background. The Laha Massacre stands as a dark chapter in World War II, unfolding in the Dutch East Indies, present-day Indonesia, during the Japanese occupation. It was marked by brutalities and mass killings that left an indelible mark on the local population. Objective of the story. This narrative aims to delve into the events surrounding the Laha Massacre, shedding light on the Japanese occupation in the Dutch East Indies, the atrocities committed, and the impact on the affected communities. Japanese occupation of the Dutch East Indies. Japanese invasion. The Dutch East Indies fell to the Japanese in 1942, subjecting the local population to the harsh realities of occupation. Occupation policies. The Japanese implemented oppressive policies, exploiting resources, conscripting labor, and suppressing any form of resistance. Forced labor. Locals were subjected to forced labor, often under deplorable conditions, contributing to resentment and resistance against the occupiers. Establishment of prisoner of war camps. Allied prisoners. Following the Japanese occupation, Allied prisoners, including Dutch, Australian, and British soldiers, were interned in various camps across the Dutch East Indies. Laha Camp. Laha, located on Ambon Island, became one of the sites where Allied prisoners, including Dutch and Australian troops, were held captive. Brutal conditions. Prisoners in Laha faced overcrowded and unsanitary conditions, inadequate food, and brutal treatment by the Japanese captors. The Laha Massacre unfolds. Escalating tensions. Tensions in Laha escalated due to perceived resistance activities among the prisoners, leading to a heightened sense of paranoia among the Japanese captors. Perceived threats. The Japanese, fearing a potential uprising or escape attempt by the prisoners, decided to take extreme measures to quell any perceived threats. Mass executions. In late 1942, the Japanese ordered mass executions of Allied prisoners in Laha, leading to a brutal and systematic massacre. Methods of execution. Beheadings. Beheadings were a common method employed by the Japanese during the Laha Massacre, reflecting a cruel and ruthless approach. Bayonet stabbings. Some prisoners were subjected to bayonet stabbings, adding to the horror and brutality of the executions. Shooting executions. In addition to beheadings and bayonet stabbings, the Japanese resorted to shooting executions as a means of instilling fear. Number of victims and survivor accounts. High casualties. The Laha Massacre resulted in a high number of casualties among the Allied prisoners, with estimates varying, but often exceeding 300 individuals. Survivor accounts. Survivors of the massacre provided harrowing accounts of the brutality they endured, detailing the ruthless methods employed by the Japanese captors. Psychological impact. The survivors, both physically and psychologically scarred, carried the traumatic memories of the Laha Massacre throughout their lives. Aftermath and international response. Discovery of mass graves. After the war, the mass graves in Laha were discovered, bearing witness to the atrocities committed by the Japanese during the occupation. War crimes trials. In the post-war era, Japanese military personnel involved in the Laha Massacre were subjected to war crimes trials, facing accountability for their actions. Impact on Japan-Indonesia relations. The Laha Massacre, along with other wartime atrocities, has had a lasting impact on the relations between Japan and Indonesia, influencing diplomatic discourse. Memorialization and commemoration. Memorial sites. In Laha and other locations where atrocities occurred, memorial sites were established to honor the memory of the victims and educate future generations. Anniversary commemorations. The anniversary of the Laha Massacre is commemorated to pay tribute to the victims and to emphasize the importance of remembering the dark chapters of history. Educational initiatives. Efforts have been made to integrate the history of the Laha Massacre into educational curricula to ensure that future generations understand the consequences of war and occupation. Reflections on the Laha Massacre. Impact on collective memory. The Laha Massacre remains a poignant part of the collective memory of the Dutch East Indies and serves as a reminder of the human cost of war. Subscribe for more untold stories. Subscribe to our channel for additional episodes uncovering hidden narratives from World War II and its impact on communities around the world. Join us in exploring untold stories that shaped the course of history and the resilience of those affected by the atrocities of war.